Show me.
I'm the martial arts film freak, and I watched Ip Man: The Awakening.
请问你没有见过我女儿翠花不？
这种事儿在香港满大街都是，管不过来的。
大家都这么想吗？
Ip Man: The Awakening is a 2021 film directed by two people, directed by Zhang Zhulin, and this is going to be a tragedy here when I pronounce this, Li Zhijie Adam. It's a fun last name for someone with such a complicated first two names. The film stars a plethora of people, but the one person, of course, we are mostly here for is Che Mui, or Jay Mui. Again, he has the same, or Miu, he has the same first name as Nicholas Che's last name, and I don't know how to pronounce that, so I apologize. It's the kid from, what is it, My Father is a Hero, that movie. That kid's great. I hope he's good here, too. Now, yes, if you may notice, things are a bit different here. I moved, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to record here. I think it's going to be a similar setup to this. I know this is a bit bare here. I'm going to get a poster here. I'm trying to decide if it's going to be my Raid 2 poster or if it is going to be my Bruce Lee poster that has been in all my other previous videos. But something will go here, and there's also probably going to be a smaller shelf here, too. Things are getting situated. Don't bug me. Ip Man: The Awakening is about Ip Man when he travels to Hong Kong as like an early 20s, mid-20s character, and he figures out that there's a thing going on where women are being trafficked, and he stops it. And after he stops it, the criminal who's in charge of it gets really angry, and he fights back, and then Ip Man fights back, and then he saves them, and he saves the day. It's pretty basic. This movie's not long at all. It's literally an hour and 16 minutes. I think it's long enough to legally be considered a movie. I went into this with little to no expectation. I have not liked any Ip Man movie since Ip Man 4, and by that I mean I didn't like Ip Man Kung Fu Master. It was horrible. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. It was an abomination, and it should be set on fire and sent to hell and die. So forgive me for expecting the exact same thing from this. Also forgive me from being pleasantly surprised. No, I wasn't pleasantly surprised with, like, the presentation of it. Like, everything that wasn't the fight scenes was just, Like, I feel like, I don't know if this was a mainland China movie or, like, a current-day Hong Kong movie. I don't know. But movies have recently, that aren't directed by big people like, Zhang Yimou, they just look bad. They look like they're shot like a comedy, like, where everything's just well lit, everything's shot in the daylight. Like, we didn't want to try to have like a fun color scheme or like a moody, darker tone to any specific scenes. It's all just bright. The acting's probably mostly fine. I can't tell. It's all in another language. I was a little bit bothered by Che Mu's performance because he's kind of doing Donnie Yen, and I can't really tell in his voice. What I mean is he has his facial features. He's doing certain things with his face, some facial acting, that it's small nuances, subtlety nuances, that I'm like, you're doing Donnie Yen, and now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. You could probably guess from the opening scene who the villain is. It's a white man.
A white man? No!
Now look, I get the history of China and all that, and why so many Chinese villains are Japanese or white. I understand. I'm sweating because it's warm in here. I don't have the fan on because that's how it works. You'll hear noise and it'll be like, and they'll sound horrible. So I'm going to sweat in here for a minute. It's just... And I know that, like, America has not had the best time, with portraying other races in their movies, but at least things are kind of getting better, getting a bit more diversity in the directors and the writers and the casters and all that stuff. But, like, with Chinese and Hong Kong movies, every villain, every white villain is just like, I'm white, I like to fight, and I yell a lot. It just kind of gets old. No subtlety. Nothing at all. They're white, and they're evil. I also fully recognize that the Ip Man movies are totally bizarre now. There's no realism to Ip Man, and you know what? I don't mind, because here's the thing. Ip Man has now entered this consciousness of being not a folk hero, but pretty much a folk hero. A character that they can do whatever they want with, you know? Like, they've been that way for almost 50 years with Wong Fei-hung movies. You know, the Once Upon a Time in China movies are not accurate for about 99.99% of the time. So they just make him go on fun adventures. It's fine, whatever. As long as the movie's good, whatever. They've literally gone so far in the way of Once Upon a Time in China and the Wong Fei-hung stuff that for the most of this movie, he even has a goofy sidekick. Just like that one guy in Once Upon a Time in China. That dude, I don't remember his name. Clubfoot's cool though. Clubfoot's the shit. One thing I kind of enjoyed, something I didn't know about, I don't think I knew about, is the villains in this movie. The villains use the martial art, the ancient British martial art. By ancient, I mean I think it was like in like the late 1800s, of Bartitsu, which sounds goofy, and so I looked it up, and then you get all the pictures, and all the pictures just look like a Monty Python sketch. It's kind of funny, but it also kind of looks like an early MMA, so that's kind of dope, but it must not have been used very much, because I don't know about it. Since we're talking about Bartitsu, let's talk about the action in this. How is it? Again, I was pleasantly surprised. The action in Ip Man Kung Fu Master was atrocious. The action in many of these sort of mainland China or straight to streaming Kung Fu movies is mostly not very good, so I was pleasantly surprised with the action in this. Chimiyu is just as good a fighter as he was as a child, and that is very good to see. I would love to see more from him, and I'm sure there is more for me to discover and watch, and I'm very excited for that. His action here is good. He has the best fight scenes. Anytime anybody else is fighting, it's usually not very good, but when he's fighting, it's actually shot pretty well most of the time. There are a few issues there. The first fight, though, details one of my problems with this movie. It's that the fight itself is actually quite good, but anytime someone goes to do a stunt, it's just nothing. In the final fight the first fight is on a bus, and it's quite good. And at the end, he kicks somebody through a window, and you see them go through the window, and then you just don't see or hear the impact of them hitting the ground. I would like one of those two things to happen, but mostly I would like to see it. Even if they're landing on a crash pad, make it look good, do whatever you got to do. It's just it takes away any sense of impact whatsoever. And a similar thing goes on with the actual choreography itself. The choreography will get quite technical, but then whenever you see hits land, it just doesn't look like they're landing. And I get it, it's a movie, they're not landing, but you make it look like they're landing, right? Like at times, he'll go to do the Ip Man, the Wing Chun thing, he'll trap somebody and then just punch them in the face, but it doesn't really look that impactful. They're just kind of moving their head, and it's like, that's not really selling it enough. You're not even putting makeup on them to make it look like they're bleeding or anything, like no bruising whatsoever. They're just moving their head, and that's not enough. It's really not. You remember that first time we saw Ip Man in that fight scene with the 10 black belts, where he trapped the guy in his lap and just starts punching down at him? That looked devastating. It was amazing, and that's not here at all. One moment that bugged me, I remember, he has a pretty good fight with this black dude who's doing Bartitsu, and he gets a staff up under him, like a Wing Chun kind of pole, and he throws him twice, and both times there's just no impact. The first time I think he lands, and it just looks like nothing, and then the second time he lands, you can just kind of tell there's a wire lowering him down. Like there's always wires in movies, I get it, but the wire lowered him down in such a way that it's like, you really tried to make that look like it hurt, didn't it? Because it didn't work. The final fight did do one thing I enjoyed, and it's something simple, and it's kind of sad. It's that in the final fight, it's good, it's technical and all that stuff, but again, he throws somebody, and it doesn't really look like he got hurt that much when he landed. However, when he lands, there's the dust up. The dust pops up off the ground, and that's all I need. That's all I need to make something look good and impactful. Add some detail in there, sprinkle in some spice, something to make it look good. If you just, I don't know, just the way they had people hitting the ground looked like they were really not doing anything, not getting hurt. It's kind of my issue with most of the fight scenes here, is they're doing a lot while also not doing enough. The choreography will get technical, and that's good. I enjoy some good technical choreography, especially when you're doing Wing Chun. You don't want your Wing Chun to look lazy. You want it to look good. You want it to look visually pleasing. But then, at times the camera will get a little bit excited. Not too often. I was quite happy with that. The camera angle was not going crazy. It was calm for most of the time. But then, hits would land, punches, kicks, and stuff that didn't look impactful whatsoever. They looked like they weren't even landing. It looked horrible. and you know, you could tell they were trying to get the angle to make it look like it was hitting, and it just wasn't hitting. And then stuff like those falls, those impacts, they just weren't enough. And then, you know, they would go to do, when inside that technical choreography, they would throw in something like him tying people up like Jackie Chan would, and I don't really want that from, you know, that's Jackie Chan's thing. I don't really need that from anyone else. And then the final fight's just not long enough, you know? He has a pretty good fight in the town square it's not great, it's okay. And then he goes in for the final fight, and you think it's going to be this amazing thing. You know, he goes into this big mansion, he takes out the henchmen, then he gets the two major henchmen, you know, those two guys that it's like, you know, they always have those two main bodyguards that always give a good fight. And he just really dispatches them in about 45 seconds, and that's not enough. And then he gets to the main bad guy, pretty decent stuff, takes a few licks for about a minute and a half, and then he beats him. And then the movie's over, because this movie's an hour and 16 minutes long. It's like, you want to like it because there's a lot to like, and then it sprinkles in a little bit of stuff that annoys you, and then it just ends anticlimactically, which is sad. There's a lot of potential here. Sadly, there's just too many negatives to really give this the most positive score in the world. The story is absolutely nothing. The characters are pretty basic, you know, nothing special going on here. This is, in total technical story, acting, character essence, literally just a kung fu movie, but none of the characters actually do anything to make you think like, oh god, I love that character. Like, you know, there's no character here that you're gonna go talk about. I don't even want to talk about Ip Man in this movie. And then the fight scenes, you know, they're okay. They just never do enough to totally make you invested. And that's really just this entire movie. So, in the end, I'm going to give Ip Man The Awakening about 2.25, I don't even know, anticlimactic endings out of 5. It's just how this movie was. Some pretty good stuff, some stuff that made me want to like it, and then in the end, it was alright. It was fine. It was less than fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't shitty. At the end of the day, this movie was not Ip Man Kung Fu Master. It was not a disaster. It was not atrocious. It was just, better than I expected. Not as good as I wanted. But tell me your thoughts on Ip Man The Awakening in the comment section down below. It is on Hi-Ya if you have Hi-Ya. If you don't, it's super cheap, and it's a really good streaming service full of amazing kung fu movies. I highly recommend it, and you should have that streaming service because it's great if you like kung fu movies, and that's why you're here. Tell me all those things in the comment section down below, what you thought of the movie. What's your favorite, I don't know. Do you want to see, do you like Che Mew? I don't know how to pronounce that dude's name. He's great, though. He really makes this movie not awful. Do that. Comment section, all those things. Martial Arts Film Freak on Facebook page, Martial Arts Film Freak on Instagram, Tristan_Glover_ on the Twitter, and Martial Arts Film Freak on TikTok. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.